Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope that you guys are all doing well today. We are out in the herb garden and we are going to be checking out the progress of all of our new herbs that we planted this year. And also I'm going to go over briefly how I use these herbs, why am I growing them and what I do as far as preserving them and stuff like that. So I hope you guys are ready. Let's go ahead and get started. And I'd also like to say, you guys, I am not a doctor. I am not a professional. I am not certified or anything of the sort. I am just an herbal enthusiast. I love to grow and use herbs the way that God intended them to be used. And I am just sharing my knowledge the best that I can so that if anything interests you, you guys can take that information and do your own research and make sure that these things are right for you as well. So just keep that in mind. So you guys know right when you walk into the garden, I have some rosemary on one side of the path and I have several beautiful English lavender plants on the other side. And the lavender plants, I can't believe how much they've grown. They were really slow to start. If you guys remember from my last video, I told you that basically everything in the herb garden are plants that I started from seed. So lavender, you guys probably already know what great uses it has. And I'm sure that as I go through here, there's a lot of uses for most of these herbs that I don't even mention. So make sure that you guys do your own research as well. But obviously lavender is amazing for aromatherapy type practices. It's great for mood enhancement and stuff like that. And it's also just very, very beautiful to have around. And it's kind of fun to lavender is really like one of the only plants that I don't dry in my dehumidifier or dehydrator. And I just like to cut the sprigs off and tie them together and hang them up in the kitchen and stuff so that we can look at them because they're so pretty and they're kind of really old-fashioned looking and kind of an iconic plant to have around. So very, very beautiful. And that's really the main reasons that I'm growing it personally, is because I love the look, I love the smell, and I just like having them around. So that is what I really do with my lavender. Of course, I'm sure there's other uses that people use them for. And over here I have the rosemary. I've got 3 plants that are growing successfully. You guys seen that I was struggling with them. They had some browning on the leaves. The transplant was kind of rough on them and I wasn't sure if they were going to really take off, and they finally did. My purpose for having rosemary in the garden is for more beauty products than medicinal purposes. I wanted to make infused oils and stuff with the rosemary because it is just so great for your hair and for your skin and stuff. So that is really why I decided to grow it, although there are many other uses for rosemary. And I am going to be just taking small cuttings because they're so tiny, and hopefully I can collect enough to just make one kind of small container of oil for my hair. And I am thinking as well, because rosemary here in my climate will not survive the winter. So I'm thinking that I'll probably take the healthiest looking one later in the season and go ahead and pot that up and bring it inside and have it maybe in the kitchen window or something for the winter, and then bring it back out, probably keep it potted up after that. That's my plan for the rosemary. And I've got a lot of my calendula flowers, the plants died. They were eaten by the pill bugs, but I did manage to get several growing, so I will still get to harvest my calendula. I love calendula so much. It's one of my favorite flowers to grow. And I have one large plant here next to the rosemary, and I absolutely love it. This is a different variety than I have grown in the past. I've grown the strawberry blonde, which I absolutely love. They're so pretty. The flowers are much smaller than these, and the strawberry blonde are small and pink flowers. These ones are much larger flowers. They're at least double, if not triple the size of the strawberry blonde ones, and they come in a variety of yellows. I think, and I've got one over here I'll show you that is orange. So I've got the yellow, the orange, and the pink all growing, and I will be definitely harvesting tons of calendula flowers. I love them. They grow so many flowers. They're so easy for the most part, and they're just so beautiful. There's a plethora of flowers, and I use those flower heads. I collect them as I kind of basically like deadhead them, but I get them before they're completely dead. So there's always obviously a ton of flowers on them, and I collect those flowers and I dry them just whole in my dehydrator, and I then kind of break them up a bit as they dry, and I store them kind of mostly broken up. But I use the flowers. It's one of the best things ever for skin. It's also great for like cold and flu, and right now I have a calendula infused olive oil that I really like to put on my hands and my nails. That is really nice to keep your cuticles nice and soft. But the calendula is great for wound healing. It's antiseptic, anti-inflammatory. It's a great cleanser for if you have swollen glands. A great cleanser for the lymphatic system. It's great, one of the best things ever for eczema and skin irritation. So I like to consume it in tea as well. So we have tons of calendula for tea. It tastes really great. Anything basically where you're using the flower, it tends to be so much sweeter, obviously, than using the leaves. And so pretty much everything makes great tea when you're talking about using the flower of the plant. So we love to have it in tea. You can use it topically, internally, and so yeah, that's how we use it. I dry it in the dehydrator and use it for tea and infused oils. So right here is the catnip, and it has grown like crazy. It has filled out this space beautifully. Of course, I have to move the forsythia bush there, but this whole kind of intersection where the paths come together is just full of the beautiful catnip. I have harvested tons of this actually, and I plan on getting more of it today. But it's been flowering for quite some time, and this is an amazing plant for stuff like gas and upset stomach. It's one of the best things ever for digestion, and it's gentle enough to use on children. So we use catnip in tea, and I harvest the flowering tops and the leaves, and I dry those in my dehydrator and break them up into small pieces for tea. And that's basically how we use it, and really love it. Like I said, it's one of the best herbs for digestive problems. If you have gas, bloating, maybe a hard time digesting certain foods, it will be fantastic for you. It's safe for small children. It's great for colic. So it's also good for like nerve-induced headaches. It helps to relieve stress and anxiety. So very great tea, very safe herb, and one that you should definitely look into putting into your herb garden. So next to the bench here is my little patch of Echinacea purpurea, or purple coneflower. It is so pretty. I've harvested several of the flower heads, but typically it's known to use the roots of the plant. So you want at least like a third year plant, and then you would harvest the root and in turn you would be killing your plant. So you want to make sure that you have a nice, large, established patch of echinacea if you plan on harvesting the root. I will not be harvesting the roots anytime soon. This plant, I believe, is 2 years old, and then all the smaller plants you see here are ones that I started this year from seed. So they haven't flowered yet or anything, but they are growing beautifully, and they finally have nice, large, mature leaves on them. And I've probably got at least 7 flowers from the large plant. And you can see that there's at least 2 or 3, 4, 5, maybe like 5 or 6 on there that are still going to bloom this summer. So very exciting. It's one of my favorite plants visually. They're just stunning to me. But like I said, mostly we're going to be using roots, but I do not have a large enough or mature enough patch yet. And so I am just harvesting the flowers and some of the leaves and are using those. So you can definitely still consume those and use those, but they're just not as medicinally beneficial as the roots. But I hope to kind of very much fill out this entire area near the bench with more echinacea. I love it. So and those two, I've just dried the flower heads and some of the leaves and break up the flower heads and keep those in my jar, and those I just use in teas currently. So most things I consume lots of herbal teas. So right here is my beautiful patch of Monarda, or wild bergamot, bee balm. You may know it by all of these names. This is my main patch, but I have, if you guys seen my other videos, I have it intercropped with my tomato plants, and they are just thriving, and my tomatoes are doing excellent. So they say to intercrop it with tomatoes because it's supposed to repel a lot of pests that tomatoes get, including the tomato hornworm, which I have had for the past 2 summers in the garden. And so I thought, yes, I will put it in there and hopefully it'll work. And so far, so good. I haven't found any tomato hornworms, so that's great. And supposedly it's supposed to make your tomato crop taste better. So we will see when we get some ripened tomatoes if we notice any kind of flavor difference. But it's growing well. Now these are in the mint family and they spread by the rhizome. So make sure when you're growing bee balm in your garden that you're okay with it spreading like other mint varieties. I have a lot of plants in here that are in the mint family, and yes, they spread, and they spread by a lot of them by the root system. Some just are very spreading by lots and lots of seed. They readily reseed themselves. So just keep that in mind when you're growing varieties that are especially in the mint family, but because they will spread. But that's okay because I really wanted my Monarda to be very thick and full and spreading. That is perfectly fine with me. They're such a unique, beautiful flower. I absolutely love them. But for our medicinal purposes, we are going to be using mostly the leaves, but also the flowers. So I harvest both the flowers and leaves as they grow and mature. I like to see the flowers in the garden, so I try to kind of rotate which ones and when I am harvesting flowers so that I always have some of the beautiful purple flowers. But right here, none are in bloom at this current time, but man, these are all from seed this year and they have just taken off. And some of the smaller ones, I think these are a different variety, but they all have purple flowers and they have just taken off. And I have about a quart jar of flowers and leaves, but mostly flowers that I've harvested just this year. So they are just doing fantastically. I'm so happy about that because I've struggled with growing them in the past. They do tend to get powdery mildew, so keep that in mind. But it is one of the most tasty herbs that I have ever had in tea. It is my favorite tea. I could just drink straight bee balm tea. It's so sweet. It just has the best flavor. I love it so much. And that's probably why it became so widely popular back in the day. But it is great for coughs and sore throat, insomnia. It's great for like menstrual cramps. Yeah, lots of great benefits for cold type symptoms and menstrual cramps, those. But I also just drink it for its delicious flavor. So it's also, they say, increases the growth of your tomato plants, but we will see. I'll update you that when we do our final garden tour for the veggie garden, and I'll let you guys know if how or if it affected the tomatoes. So that is bee balm, and I absolutely love her. So right here is our chamomile. So excited to have my chamomile finally taking off. You guys saw that it was so tiny and had no flowers. It was just a lot of this dense green vegetation, and it finally took off and bloomed tons of beautiful blooms. Oh, and it smells so good. One of the best smells is chamomile. Even when it's dried, it smells so good, so tasty. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's kind of laying all over the place right here. Oh, I love it. But we just had a heavy rain yesterday morning, and so a lot of these taller, skinnier flowers are kind of flattened. They're laying down, and chamomile is definitely one of them that got squished. But I'm going to go ahead and harvest her flowers today, and everybody loves chamomile tea. I've got 2 good little spots here, and I hope to have it spread and fill out this whole area. It is in the aster family and makes a very flavorful, delightful tea. It's very gentle, even for children. It's a sedative. It's very good if you are needing something to help you sleep at night. We use primarily the flowers, but you could definitely use the leaves as well. It's anti-inflammatory, great for like gout or eczema, great for skin irritation and arthritis. It's a sedative, so great for insomnia, great for mood swings, irritability, that kind of thing. Great for stress relief and anxiety. And it's great for stuff like menstrual cramps as well because of its relaxing and anti-inflammatory properties. So definitely a must to have in all of our herb gardens. And yes, it's so pretty and so fragrant. I definitely want it to spread and fill out around this whole area. But right behind that is my container full of mint. It has grown and filled in so beautifully. I have harvested it at least 2 times since putting it here, and it looks so beautiful in the galvanized bucket. And I do have a couple little flowers forming that I'm gonna pull off because I don't want it to spread with the seed. But oh, it smells delicious. I'm gonna be harvesting everything today, and yeah, so mint is growing fantastically, and definitely something that you have to have in your herb garden, and it makes an excellent tea. Obviously, who doesn't love mint tea? And there's so many different kinds of mint that you can grow. This is spearmint. I think there's actually some spearmint and peppermint both mixed in together, and that's fine. It doesn't bother me. I harvest it all together and keep it all together, and mint goes in almost every single tea that I make. Whenever I'm mixing like a blend, I definitely put mint in pretty much every tea that I have. So this is borage, and I am growing 4 of these plants this year in the herb garden. I've got 2 actually up here in the herb garden, and I have 2 back in the back of the garden, and this one is doing amazing. And as you can see, it is full of blooms right now, and the honeybees are just buzzing around here like crazy between the borage and the catnip. There are just honeybees everywhere. But this plant, honestly, what attracted me to it is, for one, the benefits to the pollinators, and for two, I just think it is absolutely beautiful. But I really wanted to have lots of plants that would attract pollinators of all kinds. Honeybees, bumblebees, which we have a ton of around here. We've got, I've had hummingbirds flying around in the garden. And yeah, so borage is super good for tea. Borage is really nutritious, and there is a lot of vitamins in it, and you can eat the young leaves and also the flowers, and it has kind of a mild cucumber-like taste, but if you're not used to eating herbs like that, it may take some getting used to, because it doesn't taste like spinach or lettuce, so keep that in mind. But you can again use those young leaves and flowers, but it has so many other benefits to the garden, other than just using in a salad or a smoothie, or for the pollinators. But it's also great, one of those plants to chop and drop, so you can use it to just cut and then let it lay where you need some fertilization. It is in the same family as comfrey, so it's great. You can make like a compost tea with it as well, and it's going to put a lot of nutrition back into your soil and help support your local ecosystem. So also, chickens really love it. So make sure that you're growing borage in your garden, because there are so many uses for it, and that's how I use it as well. I'm going to be sharing with the chickens. I enjoy the pollinators. We have our bench over here, so we get to listen and watch all the pollinators. So yeah, that is what we are using that for. So let's go check out the next one. So this is Rudbeckia, also known to most people as Black-Eyed Susan, and most people, I think, when they think of Black-Eyed Susans, they think of the beautiful flowers that everybody has in their flower beds. They also grow wild, especially around here. They grow all summer long. They're in these beautiful yellow blooms and really make for a very attractive flower bed arrangement. But most people don't realize that they're actually medicinal. Honestly, I'm growing it because I love the way it looks, and I love that it grows wild here all over the place. I don't want to use wild growing ones really, because mostly I see them around roadways and stuff, which I steer clear of for harvesting herbs that I'm going to be using. But for the Black-Eyed Susan, you're going to be using the root only. So you definitely are going to be killing the plant in order to use it, and I don't know if I'm ever going to actually use it for medicinal purposes, but I wanted it included in the herb garden because I love it. It's just so beautiful and so iconic to me. So it was a must to find a spot in the garden to have Rudbeckia. But people, specifically Native Americans, many different tribes use the Black-Eyed Susan root in their medicine, and there are they have used the root for stuff like worms, expelling worms and stuff like that. So more of a parasite removal type of a thing. And honestly, I don't, like I said, I don't think that I'm ever going to use it for medicinal purposes, but I definitely think that it has a place in the herb garden, and I definitely wanted to include it because I enjoy having Black-Eyed Susans like everybody else, and I love that they bloom all summer long. Right behind me here is my little bed of hollyhocks. I think I have about 10 plants that I planted, and I did 3 different colors. So We should end up with some black and like this beautiful, almost like a magenta color. It has like a creamy white mixed in with it, and then like a pink color. So very excited to see those bloom. And they are biennial, so this year we shouldn't see any sort of flowers, just the green foliage, and hopefully next year we will be able to see some beautiful hollyhock flowers come up. And I think it'll be really beautiful here in the front of the herb garden, up by the fence, so you'll be able to see it driving by or walking by or out in the yard. I was first drawn to hollyhocks because of its beauty, and our previous house that we owned in Montana had a beautiful bed of hollyhocks that just came up every single year, and we also had them out by the road, and I just loved them, and they were just constantly flowers blooming, and they're so big and just gorgeous. So I was definitely drawn to them, and I had bought a seed to just plant out somewhere in the yard. But then I learned about their medicinal properties and thought, well, they should definitely be included in the herb garden then. And so that is how they made their way here to the herb garden. So they are in the mallow family, so they have a lot of the same benefits medicinally as other mallow plants. It's really good for the digestive system and the respiratory system, and honestly there's so many benefits, especially when you're talking about an herb that is going to be helping the gut. Your gut is just tied to everything, and so when you improve that one system, you're going to have so many other benefits to the body. So definitely check out hollyhocks. There's just so many benefits to list. It's too much to go into in this little kind of overview video, but great for the digestive system, great for the respiratory system, and all around immune boosting. And the entire plant is edible. The flowers, the stems, the leaves, the roots. You can use the roots a lot like you would use echinacea. So very immune boosting. So check out hollyhock, not just a looker, but great medicinally too. And there's just so many benefits. And I am going to be actually using this next year. This year I'm just going to let it grow and get established, and we'll see her next year. Next to our hollyhocks we have Tulsi. So very excited to grow this herb. It is very well known, very popular medicinal herb, and definitely very, very tasty. Holy basil has got tons of uses, and it's also great tasting. It's great for cardiovascular health, and it's overall very detoxing to the body. Tulsi is an adaptogen and supposedly anti-cancer. It's also anti-inflammatory and great for stuff like bronchitis. Also great for stuff like arthritis, and great for eye and mouth health as well. It's great in a tea or a tincture, and also great for cold brewing. You definitely want to make sure that this plant is right for you. If you're pregnant or nursing, you're not going to want to use holy basil. And also, if you're taking any other medications, it could interact. So make sure that you do your research before using this herb, as well as any other herb. Oh, and I should also say that we're going to be using the aerial parts of the plant. So the stem, the leaves, the flowering tops are all usable, but we prefer the leaves and flowering tops. And this plant is so flavorful and makes the most amazing tasting tea. So if you grow Tulsi, make sure you come out and give this plant a taste. Just the leaves, they are so flavorful, and it's a very warming, pungent herb. So definitely have to, it is a must. You must grow Tulsi in your garden. Right here past the Rudbeckia, You guys know I have my makeshift little pot that I'm using as kind of a bird bath temporarily, and I've got it surrounded by chives, and it's growing beautifully and really thriving, so that's great. And next to it we have yarrow. Right here is my yarrow plant, and it is sprawling all over the place right here. This one really got knocked over in that strong rain that we just had, but it is kind of drooping anyways before that, and it's got all new growth coming up here in the middle, and this kind of older top heavy portion is kind of laying down, which is great. It's looking absolutely beautiful and thriving. I love yarrow, and I am fine with it spreading nicely throughout the garden. It's absolutely beautiful, and these white lacy looking flowers have been blooming just all summer long, and it's one of the first green shoots that you see coming out of the ground in the spring. So definitely adds a lot of character and color to the herb garden. Yarrow, you probably know, is used very frequently for bleeding, to stop bleeding. So I dry the yarrow. I use the leaves and the flowers of the plant and dry it in my dehydrator. And I have a small container that I keep with our first aid stuff that I took I took the dried parts of the plant and I powdered it in a blender until it was as fine of a powder as I could get in my little blender. And I keep that as a styptic powder in our first aid supplies for small cuts and wounds and stuff that we need to stop bleeding. You can use it if you cut your dog's nails too short or anything and their nail is bleeding. You can put some in your hand and stick that on the nail to help stop bleeding. It's great for healing wounds overall, and it would probably be really great used on wounds along with comfrey in a poultice, or it would be great in an infused oil. But really, I just use it personally. I dry it, and then, like I said, make a styptic powder, and I also use it in tea. It's great for colds and inflammation and skin care, that kind of thing. So that is how I use yarrow, and I like to have it in abundance. So I've harvested a ton, and I didn't even dent what I have, but it is beautiful to look at, and definitely enjoy it in the garden. So this beside me is anise hyssop, and I absolutely love it. This is one of the herbs that I was really looking forward to growing in the herb garden along with holy basil. I was really looking forward to growing those two plants. Hyssop is in the mint family and grows excellent here, and this is going to be coming back every year, so very excited about that. This is a potent digestive herb and tastes delicious in teas, so I will be drying this and using it in teas. It's great for gas, stomach pains, that kind of thing. It's a great cough suppressant. It's very relaxing and can alleviate fevers as well. So it's a bitter, pungent herb and a drying herb. So lots of great uses for it. I'm going to be drying it, like I said, and using it for tea, and it has a very wonderful flavor. So definitely check out hyssop for your herb garden. And we're going to be using the leaves, but you can also use the root. But of course you would be killing your plant. But if you have a nice large patch that you can do that, then go ahead and use the roots as well. But I'm going to be using the leaves, and also I think it would be really nice paired with catnip for stomach discomfort. So if you're thinking of different blends. So let's go on to the next, which is one of my favorites. And you'll know that's a recurring theme, that a lot of these are my favorites. And maybe that's why I planted them the first year. But behind us, we have lemon balm. This is my beautiful patch of Melissa officinalis, or lemon balm. I've got quite the patch going now. I just had this middle plant here that I transplanted. She was one of the first plants to come over to the herb garden, and I then grew 4 more plants from seed. So now I've got about 5 plants here with the ones that I planted from seed, and these are huge. I can't believe how much they're thriving now. Very excited because it is one of my favorite things in tea. I think that people call lemon balm the happy herb because it just brings so much joy. It has the most beautiful lemon scent just from touching the plant. Oh, it smells so good. Great in tea. I absolutely love it in tea. It gives a very bright flavor in tea, so that is what I use it for. I use both the leaves and the flowering parts. So you can see the flower where they're flowering. The leaves are quite small and there's a lot of tiny flowers up there, and I use the whole thing. So what I do is, for this part with the flowers, or for the parts with the leaves, I break off a decent amount, kind of bring the plant down by like 1/3 of its total length. And then I put my dehydrator tray down, and I kind of hold the stem and put my hand around it, and I just slide down that stem, and all the leaves and all the flowers come off onto the tray, and then I spread them out and dry them that way. And we use those strictly for tea. This is another one of those herbs that's great for the digestive system. It's also a great relaxing herb and safe for children. So it's said to help to calm restless children as well. It's antispasmodic. It's good for the heart and uplifting the spirit. And it's also great for depression as well. But yeah, that is how I use it. If you have any sort of a thyroid problem, you might want to check with a professional to make sure that this herb is safe for you to use. And lemon balm is also in the mint family, so beware that it could spread on you, and you might end up having a larger patch than you expected. But wouldn't that be nice? Here are my marshmallow plants. Here is one, and then there's 2 over here around the butterfly bush. So I have 3 plants total that I started from seed this year. And as you can see, there is 2 of them are flowering now. I don't think the 3rd one is quite flowering yet. But look at the beautiful tiny, well, they're not tiny, but smaller, very light pink flowers. This plant is doing super well. Now remember, this is similar to the hollyhock. They are mallow, and it is great for stomach issues. This is great for sore throats, anything that needs coating with a mucus, helping the stomach, helping the throat, helping respiratory system. Overall, it's an excellent healing herb, and the main use is with the roots. Most people think of using marshmallow root, and this is a first-year plant from seed, so I won't be using the roots this year, but as time goes by, I may harvest one plant, the roots, and maybe alternate, maybe start a new one if it hasn't reseeded. I can start a new plant and kind of alternate from there. But these root systems do get huge, and you can get such a huge harvest. But you can also use the leaves and flowers as well. You can eat them in salads if that's kind of your thing. If you can get used to the flavor of kind of wild plants. But great for vitamins and things like that. Also, because of the root system and the nutrients in it, it's one of those great chop and drop plants as well. But yeah, it's got a lot of uses, and I would encourage you to look it up, look into all the uses, because it's one of those that's just really good for the stomach lining. And when you improve your gut health, you really improve your overall system, just like I was saying with the hollyhock. So there's a web of benefits to something like the mallow, marshmallow, and mallow family. So I encourage you to look it up. There really is a lot of benefits to it that I can't just tell you all of the things, but definitely great to have, and it's very, very pretty. Now, this is a first year plant, but next year this plant will most likely be very, very, very tall, and these get big. So make sure that if you have a small herb garden, it might not be right for you. But if you have the space, I definitely encourage you to grow it, and there's so many uses. And just make sure that where you're putting it, there is enough space, wide and tall, so you don't want it, if you don't want it casting shade over some of your other things, it will get really tall after its first year. So keep that in mind. Here is one of my calendulas that are yellow. Aren't those so pretty? And here's a look at the orange ones. And I will take you to the back, and I will show you some of those strawberry blonde calendulas too, if you haven't seen those. And also I've got some herbs in the back that we'll have to check out. This is at the end of my tomato row. You can see the bee balm in there with the tomatoes. And here are some of the strawberry blonde calendula. They're so gorgeous. I definitely think that these are my favorite, but maybe it's because they're pink. All right, so in the back of the veggie garden, and we have our 4 beds really, where I've got the pumpkins growing over the beds. This is going to be kind of an extension of the herb garden in a way, I guess. I don't know. This is very shady, and there is a lot of wild red raspberries, black raspberries, and it's kind of needs more work back here, but I've got some stuff back here. I'm going to relocate some of the wild black raspberries over to the corner so that they can continue to grow and thrive here, but they won't be right in my way where I want to plant stuff. And right here I've got 3 nicely growing elder bushes. I went and took cuttings late winter, right before spring was really hitting. I took some cuttings, took them in the house, and I put them in water in a mason jar and rooted those cuttings. And then once we were past our last frost, I brought them out and planted them back here in the garden. They do really well as kind of underbrush or under taller trees, so partly shady, partly sun, and more moist area. So I thought they would do really good here, and they are doing quite well. They are growing very wide, and they're not growing taller quite yet. So I'm kind of surprised at how wide they're growing and not tall this year. But I will cut them back, and hopefully next year they'll grow just a little more up and less out. But yes, they are doing well. One of them didn't make it for whatever reason, but 3 of them are doing really well. There's a lot of new growth, and this one right here, actually, and that one too, it looks like now, we don't have the back fence. You can see where we've got posts up, but we haven't finished the fence. And so I've got some deer action coming in from the back right now, and they have topped off a lot of the elderberry. You can see where they've been kind of biting the tops right off. They also ate a couple of my pepper plants, and I think they've been browsing the green beans too a little bit, but nothing too bad. They haven't ruined anything, so I'm not too devastated or anything, but for the future, I'll be happy to get the fence up so that they don't take what's mine. But yes, these are doing great, and they've actually flowered. At least 2 of them have flowered, but this one in the middle definitely got the most flowers. And there are some little berries growing here. And you guys know that elderberry is excellent for the immune system. Everybody knows elderberry is wonderful in use in like a syrup or however you want to do it. I think syrup's probably the most well known, but elderberry syrup for colds and that kind of thing. So boosting your immunity. So yeah. Definitely, I'll probably take a cutting again and try to get that 4th one growing next year. But for now, very exciting to have found that on our property. And of course, I can still browse back there if the birds leave me any. And we'll have this nice patch up here. So I think in the back, in the pond area, there's at least 3 mature plants back there. So maybe I can get some elderberries from back there as well, but I do have a lot in the freezer still. Right here are the other 2 borage plants that I was telling you I had a couple back here. But I think the last thing to show you is the motherwort that I transplanted right here. So I think I've told you the story about the motherwort and how it became a thing right here. It really is a really pretty plant and grows decently tall and has tons of tiny little flowers. You could probably see the taller back ones have already flowered and the flowers have died off. But this one's got flowers now, and then I've got some young foliage here that hasn't got flowers yet. So yeah, that is how they became over here. I did watch some videos on YouTube of different other people's herb gardens. I like to watch other people's walkthroughs of their herbs and what they're growing and why. And so one woman had motherwort in her herb garden, and it was very mature and it just looked so beautiful. And I thought, yeah, I definitely have to keep that there. I just need to put it where I want it, so that is why it's over here. And let me tell you, it is a wonderful herb to have around. Definitely, if you have ladies in the house, it is a wonderful herb for women. Obviously, it is called motherwort, so it is great for motherly things. It is an excellent herb for menstruation symptoms, PMS symptoms, cramping, heavy bleeding, all sorts of issues with women. It's excellent. So if you are a woman or have women in your family, make sure you look into motherwort. It's also really good for cardiovascular health. It slows a rapid or irregular heartbeat. So if you have high blood pressure, it's definitely something that you should look into. Yeah, so it definitely regulates a rapid heartbeat. It calms anxiety, as you could probably guess, because it's lowering the heart rate. It's lowering blood pressure, and in turn, you're going to feel a stress relief and calming. But yes, it is a great uterine tonic. It's great for cramps and reduces hot flashes, and is a great overall, it's great for heart function as well as for the circulatory system. So I use this in tea, like pretty much everything else. I use this in tea. It's one of the easiest ways to get started, is just to know that the majority of things that you're going to be using can be dried in a dehydrator or even just hung to dry if you live in a low moisture area. It's pretty humid here, like all the time, so I don't think that I could just hang them to dry. I tried that before with other herbs and they just never dried. So for me, I need my dehydrator, and it's very easy. It's very low temperature, and the majority of herbs, unless you're doing flowers take a little bit longer, but you're only talking for most things like the leaves and stuff, you're looking at, you know, an hour or two, maybe 4 hours tops in the dehydrator. It dries really quickly. So very easy to get started if you're not sure how to use the herbs that you're going to be growing, but you know you want to grow certain things, but you're not really sure how, and you're just getting started. Don't let it be too overwhelming of thinking of all the different ways that you can use the herbs. Just know that pretty much everything can be dehydrated. We can dry these things and then store them in mason jars or whatever kind of jar that you want to use, any airtight thing, and you know, then you can from there find ways to use them. So you can still do, if you dry them and you have them all stored for your kind of long-term storage, then you can take those dry herbs and use them in other ways. So if you want to make a cold infusion, or you want to just make some hot tea, or you want to do an infused oil, those are all things that you can do, or a tincture. Most things you can then make those things with your dried herbs. So when everything is in season and it's growing and you're ready to harvest, don't feel like you have to just jump into it and get, you know, 10 different infusions going and get all your, you know, all your things set up. You don't have to do that all at once. Just get them stored so that they're gonna last, get them dried, and then you can go and say, okay, I want to try this, I want to try that with this, and that kind of thing. So don't let it overwhelm you. But that is it for all of the herbs that we are growing, that I'm growing in my herb garden this year. And of course, I've given you guys lists of herbs that I want to add in the future. So I definitely have added more since that list. So yes, over the next like 2 or 3 years, it's going to be super exciting, and for me especially, but it's going to be so exciting to see the whole herb garden evolve and come together and really just come to life. That's going to be it for this video, you guys. Thank you so much if you are still here. Thank you so much for sticking with me throughout this video. I hope that I was able to help you maybe learn something new or get you inspired to go and look this stuff up for yourself, maybe start your own herb garden. And don't be afraid to intercrop these beautiful herbs with your vegetable garden as well. They have so many benefits for us and for the garden. There's so many benefits to having these plants all around us, so don't be afraid to put them in and around your vegetable garden. But I hope this was inspiring to you guys. I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that I helped you with something new. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. We'll see you next time.